Welcome back to Straight Facts on Sunday. I'm joined by your boy, Egal. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good, man, Terry. It's been a good summer. I've been enjoying myself. How you been?
Mate, loving it. Loving the summer. It's been a brilliant transfer window. Just enjoyed a brilliant afternoon watching the tennis. Congratulations to Alcaraz. First Wimbledon title, second slam for him, beating Djokovic. That's why we're a little bit late, because I didn't want to go live while that was still going on. Lots to delve into on this show today. We're talking Tchouameni to Arsenal. Caicedo, where is he going? Lavia, where's he going to end up? We're looking at Kvaratskhelia. Could he be on his way to Newcastle?
You got it right.
£82 million bid. I definitely said it wrong. Google Translate's been helping me get it right, because I normally call him Kvaratskhelia, but his full pronunciation is Kvaratskhelia. I think that's how Google Translate is pronouncing it. But there's meant to be a bid from Newcastle in for him. Onana's deal is complete. Maguire stripped of his captaincy. So there is loads. There's absolutely loads to talk about today. Viewers, hit the like button. Please subscribe. Turn on bell notifications as well. By the way, tennis is not a game. It's a match. So you don't say what a game, you say what a match. But I just want to get the terminology right. But look, I wanted to start off with this news regarding Newcastle and this bid. £82 million, Kvaratskhelia. It's come from some of the Italian journalists that people don't take 100% seriously, but they got Kim Min-jae wrong, but they got Tonali right. This was the publication that first said that Tonali was going to Newcastle. It's the publication that first said Onana was coming to Man United. Is it a danger if Newcastle can suddenly start spending this amount of money, Egal?
I'm shocked. Honestly, I am shocked. I thought Tonali was going to be their transfer this summer. If they can go and spend another 80 million on Kvaratskhelia, honestly, these are the level raisers that we were talking about. And just getting Champions League football for the first time in how many years? If they can drop the cash like this, imagine if they sustain it. It won't take them long if they're going to continue at this level to talk about title aspirations.
I agree. Now this kid looks phenomenal. I've watched maybe 5 or 6 full games, so full disclosure, seen a lot of clips, read a lot about him as well. And everywhere you go, people talk about him as being the real deal with a high ceiling, absolute tip-top player. The hardest thing about him is his name. And I'm still going to run it through Google Translate again. Kvaratskhelia. It sounds easy when I say it out loud, but it's remembering it. I think it's like 6 syllables. Very difficult name, but you know who he is. You know who this man is. And I think you're right. If Newcastle pull this deal off, they are demonstrating levels. They're also showing a ruthlessness, because they already have a number of wingers and inside forwards. Their fans love St. Maximin. They went and bought Anthony Gordon. They've got Almiron, who had the most amazing season so far in his career. But Newcastle are not sitting there being sentimental and saying, oh, let's give them, we're in the Champions League. Let's give them all another season. No, the ownership are saying, look, if we get the opportunity to bring in Tonali's, Kvaratskhelia into the club, we've got to do it. You can't stand on ceremony. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get a deal like this done. They've got so much money. They've got massive new sponsors on the way. The Champions League money has come sooner, which means they'll be out there now in the boardrooms negotiating better sponsorship deals. They'll be selling off street names, training facilities, sponsors on their arms, their shorts, their socks. You know what I mean? They'll start doing all sorts of things to raise more money, Newcastle, and bring this in. But it is a potential game changer if they can get this done. It really, really is.
But will it happen? Because the price does seem like it's a little bit low. For a player who just won them to Syria, for a player who has much more experience than the likes of Mudryk, who went for more than that. If I'm not mistaken, he went for more than that. Am I not wrong to say? Because I feel like Kvaratskhelia and Napoli specifically, they always make it so difficult to prize away any of their players. And if they're open to sell the player, 82 million does sound reasonable. But in the same breath, wouldn't they be like the kind of club to say we want 100 million and then maybe we'll negotiate a little bit down? This is probably just the opening offer, opening conversations.
Yes, I think if they can get it done, I don't believe it will be as cheap as cheap's not the right word. 82 million would still make him probably in the top 10 signings ever made in England. But I agree with you. I think that it's going to cost a lot more than 82 million. I think this is a 95 to 100 million pound deal. Whether I think Newcastle have the pull to do it with the size of club they are, the squad they're building, the Premier League in itself being a big eye-opener, having Champions League football. But it's whether or not the finances will stretch to the overall cost. But he would be an absolutely phenomenal signing. He really would. Do you believe they've got the pull to do it, Newcastle? Do you think that they would be attractive enough for a player like him now?
I think going from Serie A champions to what is it, fourth in the Premier League to Napoli, from Napoli to Newcastle is definitely a step down. But it's not about the step down in that aspect. It's about what he might be getting financially, the wages that he might be getting, a big increase in wages. I don't know how much he's getting at Napoli, but I would assume that they'll give him a big wage. And a lot of people honestly do want to play in the Premier League nowadays. So it's not necessarily, we've seen people join Aston Villa, people join lesser clubs for one to play in the Premier League and the financial aspirations. So it might be that, not just necessarily the club size, because this is a guy who has been linked to Man City just a month ago. So I would think if he had the choice, he would rather go to a Man City or a bigger club. But sometimes it's not even about that. It's just about what offers do you have on the table, and is the club willing to sell you, and does it suit your financial needs?
Yes, very true, mate. It's an intriguing one for me, and I'm personally very intrigued to see how this deal kind of progresses over the coming days, weeks, and months. I really am. Viewers, make sure like buttons are being hit. Make sure you are subscribing. This here says, where are we looking at here? He'll never go Newcastle. So I just don't know if that's true. And I know a lot of people don't want to believe it, but Newcastle are 110% on the up and up. That they are. And I don't think you can get away from that. They're on the up and up. They're improving. They're growing. I really do think people shouldn't be sleeping on them. We all wrote them off last year, footballing wise, and they shocked everybody.
Yeah.
They have I know that Man United do, Arsenal certainly do, Liverpool are an attractive proposition. Man United and Arsenal got very exciting projects. Chelsea, I think, is an exciting project. They've got a lot of money. People think they'll bounce back. I think we're deluding ourselves if we think that Newcastle are not an attractive proposition. People know who owns them. They know the level of money that they're willing to invest. So that doesn't just mean paying them well. Somebody like Carver, he's going to know that not just this summer, but the summer after that, they're going to continue to invest and move forward. And some people are here for that journey as well. So it may not be him, but this kind of notion of, they're not going to. If you'd have said to people 5 weeks ago, Newcastle will sign Tonali, you would have been laughed at. So that's why I find it a weird thing for people to say, no chance it happens. Because for me, everybody would have said the same thing about Tonali. 6 months ago, if you'd have said Declan Rice is going Arsenal, everybody would have said no chance.
So, even Kamara's, people said no chance when he went there.
True. They did.
So
they did.
Terry, I think people are forgetting that it's not only the fact that Newcastle up north, they haven't been at the top of the Premier League in a long time. Players don't look at it that way. They look at, what are you doing for me now? And they see a team that's going back into the Champions League for not being in a long time. They see the financial packages and the opportunity to also play in the Premier League, let alone be a team that is fighting for top four and continuously playing in the Champions League. That's what their aspirations are. And you look at their squad is actually better set up than the likes of Chelsea and Tottenham. Now, I'm not here taking digs at them, but can we all admit that the starting 11 for Newcastle is up there and is categorically better at this moment in time than Chelsea and Tottenham? So if we're sitting here and saying Chelsea and Tottenham are promising oppositions for players, why aren't Newcastle? Stop looking at the name and look at the actual squad. Their squad is better than majority of these teams in the Premier League.
Yeah, listen, they certainly are. And not everyone will want to go there, but not everybody wants to go to Man City right now. Declan Rice is proof of that. So I think fans have got to get that out of their heads. There's no doubt. Newcastle mean serious business. Now, talking about serious business, Maguire today, stripped of his captaincy by Erik ten Hag, a big, bold move. I thought we all knew it was coming. New announcement of the new captain is unlikely to happen before Man United fly to the United States on Wednesday. But how big And how corrective a decision do you think this is from Ten Hag?
I think this is the right move. One, he's not viewed as the captain. A lot of people seem to not respect him as a player because of his bad performances, and the fan base has turned on him. So to have him still as your captain is to basically stick with tradition and not change the captain until the player leaves. But I do also think another reason behind this is they're trying to move him on. And it is a good idea that Manchester United and Harry Maguire have break apart this season, for better or for worse. The player and the transfer hasn't worked out, and I think it would be a healthier environment for himself to move on in his career. And to if he still has England aspirations and aspirations to continue his career, he will still play well elsewhere. I just think his confidence is shot, and at this point, if he ever wears a Manchester United kit ever again, he might not get the same level of love or support if he had another place where he moved to. And I just think, hey, you take him, you put him in a West Ham, you put him in another club like lower down the table. Does he play better? 100%. And I just think the way you guys play going forward and the issues that he's had previously is the best thing for both parties.
Yeah, look, I think it had to happen. The manager doesn't rate him in any capacity whatsoever. So what are you going to do? You literally can't keep a player in the squad that you don't rate. He's the captain, so it had to happen. And I think this is another message again to a lot of the negative Nelly Man United fans, the doubters, who, Ten Hag is a disgrace for not stripping him sooner. He's keeping him on. He's giving him false hope. This was always going to happen. What the manager did is, look, you've said you're not the problem. I'm going to give you this season. I'm not going to rock the apple cart too much because there's so much to this is the problem. A lot of people have never done crisis management. So they give opinions on things they've never had to manage. Man United wasn't a top-class manager away from winning a league title or a new captain or a new striker away from lifting major silverware. We need open heart surgery. And removing Maguire as the captain, the manager has to come in and make a decision of, do you know what? I can do that now, but there are other more pressing matters that I need to get done and addressed first. There's certain actions that can be moved later on down the line, and removing him as captain was one of them clearly. But removing him from the first team happened pretty quickly, and that was far more important because it didn't really matter to Bruno Fernandes and Varane and Casemiro that they weren't the official captains on the club website. They were able to lead by example. They did a much better job than Maguire, and we moved from there. So I'm glad he's finally done it officially. It's funny as well, all the stories about Maguire where he's going to fight for his place at the club. He loves being here. The news comes out he's been stripped, and the same outlets are now the player's going to look for a move away. This was always going to be the case, and Man United are not going to demand £50 million for him. I keep seeing Man United fans panic that we're pricing ourselves out of the market. No, we're not. We're stating that he's going to cost more than he really is as a tactic, and we all know what that tactic is. It's if we say we only want 25 million for him, we might only get 15. You've got to say 50 to maybe get 25, 30. And look, I'm glad it looks like the end of the Maguire era now, and I'm very, very excited about that because he started off well, first good 18 months, and it's just been a disaster ever since. And it's another massive loss for us. And I feel like his captaincy is almost synonymous with that banter. In the end, disastrous Ollie banter era that we went through, and him moving on is one of the fine. There's a few more players have got to go as well. Sort of. You probably maybe look at McTominay and Fred will go into that mix, Anthony Martial. But as those guys move out, you start to remember it less and less and can kind of look forward. So yeah, for me, it's bang on the right move, 110% in my mind.
And I think people think he's just a terrible footballer. That's not true, or else you would have never bought him in the first place. I do think his confidence has a massive part to play in why he's continuously making these mistakes and these errors. And him being the leader and making those errors, it just was never tenable after you can't trust your leader on the pitch. You can't trust him coming off as a substitute. What's the point of even having him? So fully agree, Terry. And wherever he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if he was an out-and-out starter and he was their best center half. Would you? I just think people forget that these guys need confidence to play well.
I think he'll do a great job at West Ham. I genuinely believe he could go to West Ham, and within a few months, people will be bantering Man United that we let a good centre back go if we're not doing great. He'll do well in a pragmatic team. He'll do well in a team that isn't exposing him to copious amounts of one-on-one defending. He's very good at that. We see him for England in a fairly, well, not always pragmatic, but generally a pragmatic team. He does very, very well. Doesn't put a foot wrong. He was brilliant for Leicester. That's the level that he should be at. And listen, I wish him all the, and that's why I still think we should be picking up 35 odd, maybe even a little bit more million, because I do think he'll be a really good asset to these teams. You know, I think he'll do a brilliant job for them. And then we can take that money and hopefully reinvest it in key areas for us. And then everybody wins, you know?
Do you think the pressure got to him? Is that what you think it is out of everything? Because for me, I view it as being the captain of Manchester United, that pressure and having to deal with all the issues, being the guy who faces up with it, that could be one of the main reasons why you've seen his performances. Because for England, in the same time period when he was performing terrible for Manchester United, he was performing well for England.
Pressure definitely played a part. Playing for the most famous team in the world, the biggest team in England, the most fans watching you week in, week out, more media coverage than anybody else. It's not for everybody. Fair. What didn't help him as well was being exposed and the level of one-on-one defending he had to do. He's too slow on the half turn and he doesn't have enough speed. And if he was the same player in every attribute, barring speed, if he was as fast as Saliba, there wouldn't have been the issues. So I think it was his poor turn on turn of speed and his inability to handle those one-on-one defending situations. That is what damaged his confidence, and it almost become a spiral effect from there, in my personal opinion. But like, I'm glad that I think it's the final now in the coffin now before he moves. I believe he will go, and yeah, I'm excited about it. In other news with Man United as well today, in more positive stuff, and I know that I'm not saying you'll be excited about this because I know that you're not a United fan, of course, but United are on the edge of announcing the deal for Onana. He has, in principle, agreed to the contracts officially, 4 years plus 1. The medical is scheduled to happen in the next day or so, but United are moving into 2023, signing potentially one of the best goalkeepers in the world, brilliant with his feet. How good a move. I mean, the reason I say that to you is you're someone that's called out De Gea now for 2 seasons, that Man United needed a better goalkeeper, a more modern goalkeeper. How big a transfer, in your opinion, is this for United, and how transformative do you think it will be to how we play?
This is huge for the way you guys are going to play, because it's now going to allow you guys to just be a little bit more forward with somebody who can also not only start off attacks from the back. You're going to see moments where teams are under it. You're going to see quicker transitions with the goalkeeper being able to spray the ball from distance. It's almost going to be like another midfielder on the pitch, with Onana now being there, being able to start your attacks from deep. You might even find situations where you're going to just see the smoothness in your defending because of the ability that they trust the goalkeeper more. They're able to give him the ball in more dangerous situations, and he's able to get out of those situations. Just the little things that De Gea was not able to do kind of put you guys under shackles at times for your ability attacking wise and defensively. And those shackles are now going to be released. And another major thing, relationships. I love to talk about relationships in football. Former manager of the player you're going to be signing, and he's managed him before at Ajax. He's worked with him at Ajax. He's one of the guys who made him as big as he is at Ajax. So that is another massive deal for you. Ten Hag already worked with him. There's not going to be as big of an issue having to get him used to the way you guys are going to be playing, because he might have played a similar way at Ajax. And just the defensive awareness and ability to get yourself out of sticky situations with the keeper who can now come out of the box and help you out, in addition to what he can do for you inside the box. So you're not going to get caught out as many times in transition also. So it's a huge thing for you guys on the defensive end and the offensive end. It's crazy how much of a difference a ball-playing goalkeeper can make in today's game.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that teams will press us less just because of Onana. We will get pressed less, which means there'll be less mistakes in defenders. You create more attacks. Man United fans will really see a difference. Now, Onana will make some mistakes this year on the ball. There'll be some goals that go in where we say, probably should have saved that. How do I know this? Because every single goalkeeper in the Premier League will have those exact same mistakes and moments next year. So is he going to be impenetrable? Make note, 0 mistakes? Absolutely not. So I know the agendas are going to start. There's already Man United fans. I saw one Man United fan online today state this. Listen to this. I thought it was Lee Gunner with the Man United account. He said, buying Onana proves that Erik ten Hag is a fraud manager. His reasoning was, because it shows Erik ten Hag can't adapt his system. He needs to buy people to make his system work.
So he's calling him a checkbook manager.
Well, what made me laugh about it is, well, that means Fergie buying Van Persie was because Fergie was a bad manager. Pep buying Haaland is because actually he's a bad manager and he had to find a player to score more goals to help him win things. That basically means every single transfer you ever make, if it makes your system work, that's the level of insanity and delusion that's going to run for a lot of people's minds. I literally saw that. I couldn't believe what I was reading. So I know the agendas are going to start against him. And by the way, that's from a guy who I used to follow, who's been De Gea out for 5 years. But everything he does gets spun into a negative. But yeah, look, for me, I just sort of feel like this is going to take Man United to another level. We will be, of course, we have to get other positions filled as well, but this man will gain us an extra 10 points this year. An extra 10 points from what we already got will be that much better. And sometimes it's going to be subtle. It might be a game where he barely makes a save and people go, well, how did he help? It'd just be the amount of attacks that we get.
Everything okay?
Here's something. Sorry, TV on. I'm alone in this building, and I could hear a woman's voice. I was panicking. It's the TV in the other room, guy Wimbledon, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" So yeah, I'm really happy with it. There's a comment here from Lucky Singh who says, "Terry, you only care about social media accounts, not changing mentality. Trophies. I've not mentioned social media accounts. My talk about Man United being the most famous and the most big, the pressure is derived from the size of the fan base and the amount that's spoken about the players on social media and by the media. They can't handle that pressure to help us win those major trophies. Until people can handle the pressure of playing for our club, the trophies, which should be the end result, are never going to come. So the mentality's got to be right ahead of time. There we go, my friend.
What about this? Let me just say this. I feel like a lot of people are looking at Onana. They're saying to themselves, he's coming in. How much are you paying for him again? 50 something, 55 million?
42 million pounds.
42 million pounds. Let's be honest. You see Kepa, he went for double that. So based on that, or close to double that, based on that, you're getting a good deal on your goalkeeper. You're improving your squad massively. If you don't improve in other areas, people can't now just say, oh, we didn't make enough signings, because at the end of the day, Onana step one. This is only your second year. I don't think you guys are going from where you were last year to challenging for the league title this season. But of course, Onana is going to be a step forward towards your rebuild and where you guys want to be. Like, I just think people want everything to happen so quickly in today's world. Everything, just give me a quick solution to every problem. They almost think everything is like Chelsea, where you finish 9th one year, the next year you win the league. It doesn't happen like that all the time. So there's going to have to be a level of patience. And the biggest difference is, you know how people get nervy when you're watching the game and the goalkeeper has the ball? With De Gea, you got nervous a lot. You're not going to be nervous with Onana now. You're going to have trust when he received the ball under pressure. You're going to have so much more trust. And when you're watching these games, you're not going to be like, kick it long. You're not going to be doing that. You're going to be more trusting that they're going to do it. And there's going to be mistakes. Ramsdale did it. Everyone does it. But those things come with it. And I don't think Onana is that far off from being one of the better goalkeepers in the league.
There's a super chat here that says, Terry, do you think it's too late for the sale, even if it happens to affect the transfer window? Also, do you see the Casemiro clip where he said that he thinks Rashford could win the Golden Boot / Ballon d'Or? I didn't see that clip. I mean, look, Rashford, if the team improves, Rashford could score even more goals. I'd love Rashford to win it. I don't know if he ever will. There are players in the world that are better than. We all know that the Ballon d'Or isn't awarded to the best player in the world. It's given to the
popularity competition.
Partly, but it's also given to the best player that season. So, if every year it was given to the best player in the world, then it would only ever. Messi and Ronaldo pretty much won it every year, but it's because their performances were there. Does that make sense? If we all decide today that Mbappe is the best player in the world, next season, if he has a poor season, it doesn't stop him from being the best player in the world. He didn't have a good season, so it's based on seasons. But yeah, I listen. Casemiro is going to talk his own players up like that. Is the sale too late? No, the sale is never too late, even if it happens after the window. It could be too late to affect the window then, but as long as the sale goes through with at least a week remaining, it will impact the club. We'll go out and get somebody big.
Do you think he plays against Arsenal?
Who?
Onana.
Probably. What date's that? 26th?
25th, I think.
25th.
In like 9 days.
He may, if the deal goes, if he flies to America, he will, but we'll see when it actually kind of completes and stuff like that. officially and the announcement happens, he may play in that game. But look, I think that if the takeover happens with at least a week to go, United will make the new owners will make a big splash. And I believe it will be Harry Kane, unless he's already signed for Bayern Munich. I believe that we would go and sign someone like him if they come in. We'd have signed Harry Kane this summer if we had more money. It would have already been a done deal. It would have happened. We would have. The reason we can't do it is we don't have enough money right now to get Kane 105, 110 million, plus the goalie, plus the two midfielders. There just isn't enough to spread the whole way. Unless we sell more people, and we haven't sold anybody yet. We had new owners come in, and suddenly there's an extra £200 or £300 million available. We'd go and get him. So, yeah, that's what would happen in my opinion. But like you were saying about challenging for the league, I agree to an extent, but not fully, because I do believe there's a sting in the tail this summer for rivals when it comes to Man United. I believe we'll get Onana, Mount's in. I think we'll buy another midfielder of an Amrabat level. It may not be him, but somebody of that level. I think Højlund will come into the club, and then I think there'll be another signing, and it could be a star signing after that. And if we get those 5 players in, I'm not saying we'll win the league next year, but I think we'll challenge. I think we'll be 15 points better next year. And
with Højlund starting as your striker,
yes, I think we will be.
I don't think Højlund's shown enough to say that he's going to be able to lead your line to a title race.
I think, but it's not just about him. So I think with the signings we're making, we could be about 15 points better next year. That puts us into a title race.
I understand that, but in the same sentence, I'm looking at the main guy that you're looking at as your goal scorer to connect your attack, and I just haven't seen enough from him. You're looking at Mason Mount. Of course, I rate Mason Mount, and I think he's going to improve your squad, but I don't think he's going to improve your squad that much to the point where your midfield is going to be that much better than it was with Eriksen. And yes, your goalkeeper is going to be a huge addition. The only real huge addition I view so far is the goalkeeper. I think Rasmus Højlund, for the price you guys are looking to pay, it's a little bit too much in my opinion. And you guys are overpaying for a player who hasn't shown enough experience. Or
what are we paying for him?
You guys are paying for his potentially.
Yeah, but what's the price that you've read? Because they're saying they want 85 million, but Man United are stating they're not going to pay anywhere near that.
What are you willing to pay? 50?
So I reckon it'll end up being around 50.
That's still, think about it. Balogun could go for less than 50, and he scored 20 goals last season. This guy scored 9 goals in the Serie A last season.
But Balogun's not wanted by one of the biggest clubs in the world who are in the Champions League at this moment in time. Equally, you guys spent £50 million. And by the way, I'm praising you here. Arsenal spent £50 million on a very young, up-and-coming defender in Ben White. Why is it weird and too much money to spend on a young, up-and-coming striker? Strikers are far more expensive than defenders typically. He's highly rated. He's got a good goal-scoring pedigree as he's moving through. All the scouting reports, everything you read about him is highly positive for his future. I don't think £50 million in 2023 for one of the best young strikers in Europe is too much money.
You're paying for a lot of his potential, and really and truly, he doesn't guarantee you anything at this moment in time. 20 years old, yes, he could potentially become really good, but in the same breath, you're paying £50 million starting him up front for another player who you can consider the same level as Amad Diallo, basically, for when you paid for him. It's just
Amad Diallo didn't have the same level of experience that.
No, but I'm saying the same level of risk financially.
But it isn't. But Diallo costs 18 million. Okay, and it can go to 37 million with the right amount of appearances for Man United, but he hasn't had them as of yet. And he was a lot cheaper, Amad Diallo, because he had barely any game time in his career at that point and was about 3 years younger than Højlund is when we signed him. So it's a very different scenario altogether. For me, though, as I said, it isn't just about signing Rasmus Højlund. I said about getting him. I mentioned 2 midfielders. I mentioned the goalkeeper, and I mentioned another star, i.e. a Harry Kane type player. I still think Man United have that in them this summer, especially if that transfer, if the ownership takeover goes through. So I'm very excited about what Manchester United are doing. I just want the ownership to go. Let's get some more of these super chats here. First one says, mate, you've got to stop bringing up the Qataris when talking about this season. Plus, if you include a striker, there will be goals pulled from everywhere Ronaldo's season. But this is not necessarily true. People have said this about Bruno Fernandes in the Man United team for years. He's just taking goals off other people. That only makes sense if we don't increase the amount of goals that we score as a team. So last season, as an example, Manchester United scored in the Premier League just 58 goals. You compare that to Arsenal, who scored 88, 94 from Man City. Newcastle scored 68. Liverpool, 75. Brighton scored 72 goals compared to our 58. So the only way that makes sense, my friend, is if next season Højlund scores 25 goals, but we only score 58 goals as a team. If Højlund bangs in 20 goals and our team has gone and scored 80 goals next season, then he has grown the amount of goals we scored exponentially. So Bruno Fernandes, when he came in, when he was scoring 30-odd goals a season, he didn't take 30 goals from other people. The team improved its goal scoring by about 37%. So again, your point only makes sense if we don't score more goals as a team, my friend. So yeah, I disagree with that completely. Højlund needs another season to see how good he is going to be. I understand that, and I don't think he's going to be the finished article year one, but I believe he'll be a better player for us than what we've had from Martial this year. He's going to be better than what Weghorst was, and he'll improve us. And like I've said, all the little improvements from him, the midfield, and the goalkeeper, I believe Man United, who finished on 75 points last season, will be near the 90-point mark this year. And I believe 90 points this season will put you into a title race.
But so, you're paying 50 million for a backup, you're saying, right? That's nothing wrong with that.
We're not paying 50 million for a backup. We're paying 50 million pound for a highly talented young striker who has got a bright future that could become the main number 9 at Man United in the future. The other strikers we're looking at, like Kane's, are at the latter end of their career. So there's room for both, you know. I wouldn't say it's a backup. I believe it's someone for the future, personally.
Fair enough.
Ben White was Prem proven. No, I understand you, but he's also a defender, and defenders are typically half the price of attackers. So again, like I said, one of the best young strikers in Europe. I don't think 50 million pounds in 2023 is an exorbitant amount of money to be spending on someone that's rated as highly as him. Yes, Terry, but this is a striker you're bringing in. I don't believe the goals of the team will increase with the inclusion of Mount and Bruno dropping deep. Oh, that's cool. So let's have a little bet now then, bruv. I guarantee you next season, Man United score at least 20 more goals in the Premier League. So at least 20 more. We'll score at least 78 goals in the Premier League next year.
Is that without Harry Kane?
That's what we'll score next year. We will score more goals next season, in my opinion.
No, but his point changes if you bring in Harry Kane. He's basically saying if Rasmus...
Well, I'm just making a bet. He can, if Harry Kane comes in, we'll wipe the bet off and the bet don't exist. But if we just bring in Rasmus Højlund, I still believe we'll score at least 20 more goals in the Premier League next year. I don't believe we'll score... we actually, barring Aston Villa on 51, we were the lowest goal scorers in the top half of the league last season. Really? That's not going to happen. We had so many games we dominated, we just didn't kill games off.
Yeah, your defense was good.
One of the only games all season where we smashed was Chelsea. But we'll do more of that next season, in my opinion. Personally, that's what I think we will do. Moving on from Manchester United, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Chelsea. There's a big report today from Fabrizio. I saw CFC Pies put this out that the deal for Caicedo is close. Personal terms agreed. He wants Chelsea kind of getting closer behind the scenes. Do you see Chelsea pulling this off, or do you think someone might come in and hijack this away from them?
Chelsea, be careful. Liverpool, Arsenal are all sniffing about, but the reality is Chelsea have done enough groundwork on the deal for themselves to get it done. I think Caicedo will end up becoming a Chelsea player, but it will be interesting if Henderson and Fabinho leave. And all this influx of cash goes into Liverpool if they don't go and test Brighton's resolve to see if they would be willing to sell him to Liverpool, or if Arsenal are able to sell Balogun and Thomas Partey, we don't go in and try to do something. But one thing I also have question over: why is Chelsea taking so long? They've had the inside track on the player for the longest time. I don't know how much money they're looking to get to negotiate. Is it 100 million, 90 million, whatever it is? Their preseason around the corner. Don't they want their team ready to go? As many players as possible in the door for Pochettino to train with. So they should try to get this deal done as quick as possible before some of the other teams sell their players and have that cash available to go in and cause some problems. Because I know we're going to be fighting over Lavia once Caicedo's gone, but at this moment in time, they're lucky nobody else has the funds up front.
Yeah, I get that. What I would say, though, it's a bit like the situation with Arsenal. You know, a lot of people tried. I get people trying to back Eni Aluko with this notion that Arsenal were forced into paying 105, and if you would have bid that from the start, there'd have been no risk of City getting involved. I think if you had bid that amount of money, City would have just got involved in the race sooner. You don't always have to rush in when you've got lots of other priorities. And Chelsea's priority was clearing out the dead wood, clearing out the unwanted players, clearing out players that they wanted to keep, who wanted to leave, the Kai Havertz and the Mounts, etc.
Fair enough.
And I think that they're now focusing very much on bringing people in. And I think if today Liverpool put a bid in for Caicedo that was close to being accepted, I think Chelsea would move. Does that make sense? They do need to start bringing in some of these players, though, because you want to try and immerse them within your squad for pre-season. So you don't really want the Caicedo deals, whoever the new striker is going to be, to prolong for another 2 to 3 weeks, because you'd love to, I feel like this about Man United. I really do want, like Højlund as an example, as well, done in the next week. Just like Arsenal have got done. You are now going to have all three of your new star signings for the entire pre-season. And I think that's gold dust. It's absolute gold dust. So there is an element of truth. They need to get it done. I think up until now, Caicedo would have been away after international break anyway, so he wouldn't have even been involved. But you don't really want it taking more than another week after this. Otherwise, you just run into that realm of, will he be ready to start the season? And I believe next year is going to be a very frenetic campaign where how quickly you start could be really important to your end position, if that makes sense.
I think Chelsea also lack quality at this moment in time. So Caicedo is important for them to bring in, because if they don't get Caicedo, who of that level of quality that's a DM can they bring in to play next to Enzo Fernandez? I really can't name too many. So it's imperative that they get Caicedo. If they don't get Caicedo, it could cause them a lot of problems and it could set them back, because it's crucial you get the right partner for Enzo Fernandez. You don't spend this type of money on Enzo Fernandez and bring in anybody to play next to him. You need to have the right partner next to him to get the best out of him.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they've got to bolster that midfield. So many players have left. It's very sparse right now. The one thing about Chelsea, there's that lack of experience. So I'm really, yes, they've got Sterling at the club. Silva's there. You've got Chilwell and Reece James, and maybe I'm missing another player, but I do think they've got to add a few older players as well. Almost, they need their own version of James Milner. Not James Milner in 2023, like 2017 James Milner, if that makes sense. Maybe a few players that can just come in and, how we signed Casemiro, how they got Silva a few years back. I think they might need something like that. Maybe. You never quite know, but they've got to bolster that midfield as well. And they are looking to compete with you for Lavia. And do you think, where do you think Lavia is going to end up between the two clubs? Of course, Liverpool in the mix as well. Do you feel like you've got the pool, the squad, the kind of status right now in the English game to beat Chelsea in that battle, Egal?
Honestly, if Chelsea don't get Caicedo, it's a situation where Lavia might start at Chelsea and he'll go there. I think Lavia at this moment in time, he's looking at more where he can develop rather than where he's going to go and win. Because I don't know if he backs himself to say he's going to start at every club that he would go to. Say he goes to Arsenal right now with us having Declan Rice and potentially selling Thomas Partey. I think he would be great for us in the future, but I don't think he starts right away. I think he's going to be a bit part player here and there, rotation, part of the first team when we're rotating and changing around, when we have different tactics set up. But at Liverpool, if they do get rid of Henderson and think, he'll start right away. At Chelsea, if they don't get Caicedo, he'd start right away. And at the age of 18, only having one season under your belt, if you can start at a top 6 club, I think he'd rather back himself to do that than be a bit part player at Arsenal. So it's not even about pull at this point, because I do believe we have at this moment in time more pull than these other clubs. It's just, where would he go for his own development? That's what I think he's thinking.
Would you rather keep Partey or sell him and sign Lavia? What would your preference be going into next season?
Personally, for me, I keep Partey. I don't know why we this obsession with getting rid of Partey. The club seems to want to get younger. There's been so many reports of the club wanting to sell Thomas Partey and bring in a younger body to make the midfield younger. We've already gotten rid of Xhaka. We brought in Declan Rice and Kai Havertz. Now, if we get rid of Partey, we'd be bringing another young midfielder. And the team, although it would be better in the future, in the short term, we'd actually be getting slightly worse, I believe, with getting rid of Partey for Lavia. But if you look at it from this perspective that Lavia is an addition and Declan Rice is the actual Partey replacement, that's the way I think the club might be viewing it. But I don't view it that way. I think if we kept Thomas Partey, we'd be better equipped for the title race this season against Man City. And I still think Thomas Partey is a quality player, but I understand why they want to sell him. I just don't know if it's the risk that's going to be worth a league title in the end.
Yeah, look, it's an intriguing one with the Thomas Partey situation. If your manager's advocating it, I feel like there's an element of, is there something we don't know? Therefore, should it be supported? But I understand that. Like I felt like Partey and Rice in the middle was formidable. But we'll see what happens. This year from go on.
We sell Thomas Partey and Balogun, and we go get Caicedo or somebody of that level like a Tchouameni, then it makes sense. If we bring in Lavia, in the short term, we've actually downgraded. Don't you agree?
Yeah, Lavia's not on Partey's level yet. It doesn't make sense unless, like I've said, there's something going on behind the scenes that we're just not aware of. Maybe something that Partey said or did during that really bad period that you guys went through in the title race. Do you get where I'm coming from? But yeah, no, I totally get that. Dan here says, only way Caicedo doesn't join Chelsea is if they choose to walk away. Too much groundwork done. Chelsea aren't pushovers. This is true, and they do want 100 million for him, and those deals take a while to get done. Dan Waters also said here, Arsenal don't have more pull than Chelsea.
I think we do at this moment in time. I think what Chelsea have always banked on is paying more wages and paying more money for players. Just look at the Mudryk situation. We walked away from that deal. It's not even about pull sometimes. The way we realize pull is where if we had two players that are going up against, we're both going up against, and we both wanted that player, let's be honest, and they both had, everything was the same, which club would they rather play for right now? I think Chelsea's there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of question marks. And if you were to say to a player, which club, everything's the same, which club would you go to? I think they'd rather go to Arsenal at this moment in time because of our stability, because of the fact that we're challenging for a league title, because they know they're playing again with quality players who are across the board. Where Chelsea, let's be honest, we look at some of those players that you have on your squad, we don't really know what direction you guys are headed in. I know you guys are very young and you're only up is where you guys can go, but I don't really think any player in world football is looking at Arsenal and Chelsea and saying Arsenal or Chelsea are in a better position to go to. And that's how I view pull. I don't view pull as a financial pull, because guess what? Financially, I think we both have money. We just choose to use it smartly in comparison to you guys.
There we go. But yeah, look, I think Chelsea will get the Caicedo deal over the line. I do. I genuinely do. I don't think there's any concerns for them around that. Do you think they need a better striker? Do you think they've got this Jackson guy, but do you think they need a more prolific number 9 if they're going to compete for the top 4 and win trophies next season?
Chelsea would worry me if they got a guy like if they went and just spent the big money on Napoli's striker, Osimhen. If they went and got Osimhen, I'd be extremely worried. But the fact that they might be starting with Jackson, or the fact that they might be trusting in Broha, Aubameyang's probably going to be leaving, and they're looking at potentially bringing Ivan Toney in January, those kind of things. I don't know if they might be struggling they might struggle in the first half of the season and then realize in January they need to bring in a big boy striker. And then if they do spend that money on Osimhen or Ivan Toney, I'll be more worried. If they don't, I really do think Chelsea are not really going to be a big threat to anybody besides like trying to challenge for top 4. So anything to stop them from getting Victor Osimhen, basically, because I view Victor Osimhen as a real deal. And if they get him, I'll be worried about Chelsea. For now, I'm not too concerned, Terry. Jackson hasn't shown enough yet.
I just don't know. I just don't know enough about him. The Jackson guy, he could surprise everybody. I mean, Broja could return from his. Do you know I'm really intrigued to see in the Chelsea team next year, if he stays and if the football's better, is Raheem Sterling.
Interesting, yeah.
Because I still think there's a fairly good. Look, the guy will probably still miss 5 or 6 chances a year where you go, how did he miss that? Because he has a habit. I love Raheem Sterling, but he has a habit of missing goals that look really easy to score. But in a team where that ball is going across that 6-yard box regularly, he was a master at Man City of being in the right place at the right time and scoring goals.
System.
And they just didn't do that last year, Chelsea. The amount of times they got that ball into the box and they either didn't shoot, shot got blocked, or there was nobody making those runs to the back posts. If they can get that right this season, you may get some goals from Broja, some goals from Jackson. If somebody like Raheem Sterling could pick up 15 to 18 league goals through the team playing, and he's capable of doing it because he's done it before, they may be okay without a brand new prolific number 9. But there's such an enigma. I feel Chelsea. I'm so intrigued to watch how they play because I don't want to rewrite history. I listened to what a lot of Don said on the Top 6 show on Friday, where he said, actually, we were really good in large parts of lots of games last year, but we'd miss chances, we'd concede a goal, then we'd get run through. And I'm not too sure if that's completely true. I think there's a little bit of rewriting history because there were some games where they were run through the whole match. Remember the Brighton games as an example, Man United's games. But they did miss in the Man United game as an example so many chances, so many opportunities where if they start scoring some of them early next season, they could be a threat. Or am I deluding myself here, Gal?
They still lack goals, Terry. That's why I'm saying if they bring in a Victor Osimhen, it's a really threatening team. And Nkunku, Sterling, Jackson, and who's on their right? Would it be Madueke or would it be the other guy? I forget his name. Starts with a C. But I really do think Chelsea still lack goals. And if biggest thing Pochettino's going to have to do is if they change it back to a back 4, he's going to have to find a way to get more opportunities for these guys in attacking issues, because they were playing a back 3 majority of their seasons, if I'm not mistaken. So changing the system where the wing backs are not going to be as involved in the attack, I want to see how these wingers actually get involved, because there's been so much changeover at Chelsea that we don't even know what they're capable of yet. So I can't write them off, but looking on paper, they don't have enough goals at this moment in time.
It's going to be very intriguing to see what they do. Viewers, please make sure like buttons are here. Make sure you're subscribing to the Terrace as well.
And Nkunku could be,
Tottenham. Yeah, Nkunku, I'm very excited to see him in a Chelsea shirt. But I want to ask you about Tottenham.
Yeah.
Should they sell Kane?
I think Tottenham have been having an underrated window, but they should consider selling Kane, because I think the sooner you get rid of Harry Kane, the sooner you start your proper rebuild and you can actually have life beyond Harry Kane. Now, I know it's going to be difficult, and it looked like a one-man team majority of the season last year, but Harry Kane is how old now? He's almost 30. He has 1 year remaining. He could leave on a free at the end of this contract. Like, I know you're not going to get any major player of Harry Kane's level to come in for cheaper than what you're going to sell Harry Kane for, but you're better off to start your rebuild now, because no player is bigger than the club. They should view it that way, and they should look at Harry Kane and be like, you've been a great servant. We're going to let you go where you need to go. We're going to get a good return for you. And they go and get they go out and they get a Vlahovic. They go out and they get somebody in return. And I think that's what they should do. I've been saying this for years now. I think Tottenham and Harry Kane has been a great run, but it comes a point where you have to say to yourself, the player's getting older. We need to see life beyond Harry Kane. And this is where they start their succession plan. If they can get some money in now, bring some players in. They still have Son. Luckily, they have Kulusevski. They have Richarlison. They have a bedrock of players that they could play. I'm not saying it's going to be as fluid or consistent, but just with Maddison coming in, this might be the opportunity where you guys can be like, you know what? We have someone who can do the deep line role. We have people who can score goals. We have the creators. Let's just try to move on Harry Kane and bring in another striker to help this team for the future. And that money, if they don't take it now, it's not going to be there next season. He's going to leave on a free.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you 100%. I think they are cutting off their nose to spite their face. They keep Harry Kane. The most they can hope for is a top 4 finish, but I don't think that's even going to happen. I don't think it will. They don't win trophies. They're not going to make the top 4. I just don't think they're going to be good enough. And then he leaves for free. He could join Chelsea. Fucking heaven forbid. Could join Arsenal. You never know how the world's going to look in a year.
Never going to happen.
No, it won't. I'm being a little flippant, but he's going to leave. They will not get that money. They already moan. This is where their fans are warped for me. Their fans complain that Levy and Enoch don't invest enough money into the team, but they're advocating an 80 to 100 million pound asset leaving in a year for free. Equally, when he leaves, he takes the most amount of goals you guys have seen since Jimmy Greaves away. So if your owners are too cheap to invest the money when you don't have it, most of them don't believe they'd reinvest all the money even if they sold him. you're going to spend even less and get an even more substandard replacement if he's allowed to leave for free. Equally, I think if you sell him and you reinvest, I think it galvanizes Spurs and makes them better. Not that Harry Kane isn't amazing. I think there would almost be this element of everyone would write them off. Everybody would say they would be done. And it would take the responsibility from nearly everything being on Kane's shoulders and spread it amongst the new number 9, whoever that is, Richarlison, Maddison, Son, Kulusevski. Well, I think so much at Tottenham, they're not even Tottenham Hotspur, they're Harry Kane FC. And sometimes it becomes more detrimental. We saw that all the way back when with Poch. Should never have started that Champions League final, but he did. Whenever he's had a very good injury record the last 2 years, but whenever he's been out injured, he's been rushed back into this team. And I sometimes they should have look what happened this season with Haaland and City. And maybe this season isn't the best example because they weren't that great Spurs, but there's been many a season before this where whoever the replacement number 9 was should have got a lot more game time. Kane should be taken off the pitch earlier, reserve him. They don't do anything like that at Tottenham. It's all Harry Kane or nothing. And I actually feel like they'd become a better team as well. But if they keep him and he leaves for free, who knows? You know, they still might improve, but he definitely won't have that 80 to 100 million pound to invest in go out there and do something bold. Go and get Lautaro Martinez with the money. Go and do something massive. You're not doing that if you leave for free. So yeah, I think that's what they should go and do, Tottenham personally, but we'll see.
And also the managers just come in. He has never played with Harry Kane, so he won't be as used. It won't be a situation where it's going to be, how are you going to change the system without him there? The system is going to change anyways. So this whole thing about having to keep the player because he's a one-man team and this and everything else, I just feel like there needs to be a level. One, at what point do Tottenham look at themselves and say, what are we going to do? What's the next step? Because I think they could give the keys to the team to Son, Maddison, and Kulusevski, and Richarlison could see himself pick up his form. You just need an opportunity, and I think they need to give themselves that opportunity to develop themselves away from Harry Kane. And yeah, man, it's just weird. Can you view Tottenham without Harry Kane? He's just been the forefront of the team for so long now.
It's hard to see, but you know, everyone. I couldn't. There was years in my life where I thought Ryan Giggs would still be playing when he was 60. And he left, and these things happen. So this super chat here from Sean says Chelsea's biggest issue is the guy they just sold for 60 million, second in the league for underperforming XG. Example to Man United away last season, he should have got 2 or 3. Guy plays with a newborn calf. Obviously talking about Kai Havertz there.
Respect to my silky German, man. Respect to him.
Are you fully behind that deal now?
Listen, I was never a fan of the signing, but I understand that Mikel Arteta has a plan for him, and I hope that it works to fulfill what he wants him to do. And I really do believe people will be surprised when he's trained and when he's given the proper coaching, that we can probably get the best out of him in a deeper position, and people might be surprised. He might surprise a lot of people. I don't think he's going to be the signing of the season, but I think Kai Havertz is going to define how this transfer window turned out. He's going to be the player who determines if this window was a success or a failure, and so forth. Our season, I think our season might rely on Kai Havertz. It's crazy to hear, but hey,
wow, it's a big statement. Big up to the both of you, and welcome me, Egal, for the Straight Facts family.
Big up to you, bro. Appreciate it,
mate. Mudryk is not even on high wages. Chelsea's payment structure was better, and add-ons were considered achievable.
Yeah, so was the charity game and the £20 million donation. So let's not act like it was only the transfer fee.
There we go. Now, how happy are you now to see Declan Rice through the door finally?
Terry, I'm so excited. I'm so happy that Mikel Arteta and Edu has delivered on a signing of that magnitude, being able to get him when was the last time we were able to get a player that all these people wanted, an English player, might I add. I don't think we've been able to do that since Sol Campbell. this is the biggest English signing we've made in a long time, and this is probably the biggest signing we've made since Mesut Ozil. So as a fan base, we're ecstatic, we're so happy, and you can tell by how everyone was just waiting for the social media to announce Declan Rice that we were just gonna all celebrate and enjoy. I knew it's been happening for a long time, but yeah. And to people who are saying the £100 million price tag, it brings a lot of pressure, I welcome the pressure. We want the pressure. We love the pressure. Is because at this moment in time, we're in a situation where we are putting ourselves in conversation to win the league. And Declan Rice is the kind of person who can either come in and raise us over that level to get us where we need to be. Because his injury issues with Thomas Partey, Declan Rice doesn't necessarily have that consistency in performances. He has that. A player who also the solidity defensively helps us carry the ball from midfield. He can also play 2 different positions, 3 different positions, even if you want to play him as a center back. It's just I'm so happy that we got him over the line, and it just makes it more better that we got him over Man City and Bayern Munich and some of these other guys who've wanted him in the past years. It's just the icing on the cake for me.
Yeah. Do you feel agendas are already being created by rivals? Are you seeing that already online?
100%. Shout out to my boy Kaz. He was saying to me earlier today that he's not even top 6 in the midfielder in the league. And then you have Man United fans telling me Scott McTominay is better than him. You know the same old jokes that people just say. And then the best one of all is apparently he's not press resistant. Since when is he not press resistant? I've seen Hussam talk about this. I've seen other people talk about it. Since when is Declan Rice not press resistant? And in a better team with better players around him, who's to say you don't see more from him and is more of his attributes? Because we all know the jump guys can make going from a team like a lesser team to a better team. We've all seen it before with many different examples. Conte going from Leicester to Chelsea. We've seen the jump that he made and helped them win the league after winning the league at Leicester. We've seen Roy Keane go from what was it, Nottingham Forest to Manchester United after they got relegated. Was it Nottingham Forest, if I'm not mistaken?
He came from Nottingham Forest, yes.
Yeah. And then he went on to do what he did. There's just been so many different examples of players that came from lesser clubs within the Premier League to go on and do better things. So I just think he's just one of those guys there. And the whole thing about revisionary, you know what people keep saying now? Partey and Xhaka were not rated last season, Terry, by a lot of rivals. You remember this. How many times were people making fun of Partey and Xhaka throughout the season? All of a sudden now we're moving them on, and they're the best thing since sliced bread. I've never seen this before. The 360 U-turn that the rival fan base has made on Xhaka and Partey is crazy. You would think Xhaka and Partey were prime Iniesta and what do you call it? And Xavi or something. The way that people are talking about them, they're unbelievable. You can't change them. No, the reality is they're both getting older. Xhaka was more reliable than Partey, I'd even say, with availability. And we're replacing them with, potentially with a 3-man midfield of Declan Rice, Lavia, and Havertz. So I'm not gonna lose sleep over this. And to the Man City fans, you guys were telling me you guys are sharks and you're gonna get him. So don't now change up, because I'm not one of these guys who, when a player rejects us, Terry, I sat here and I said Modric rejected us. Big deal. I'm here. I'll take the corn. Same with Martinez. You remember this. How many times did you bring up Martinez rejected you guys? And I say, yeah, he did. Even though we never took it to the level where City did in wanting to pay that kind of money. But hey, it's funny how people will just say, oh, we never bid, or we never were serious.
Yeah, I hear that. And look, agendas are just going to agenda, you know what I mean? And for me, I can't slag Rice off because I've been advocating for my club to buy him for 3 or 4 years. It would look really weird to suddenly sit there and talk about how bad a player he is. Yeah,
Stop Terry.
Yeah, look, Scotty's just not on Rice's level, in my opinion, and it is what it is. But do you feel you're ready now for the start of the season? Is the investment is there, the pressure is there. You've got to be in the title race as the bare minimum. Do you feel like you've done enough, or is there more business that's still needed for Arsenal? And if so, where?
If we get rid of Partey and Balogun, there's room to bring in a player like Xavi Simon on loan, potentially, who can play on the right side with Bukayo Saka. And there's also room to bring in another midfielder if we get rid of Thomas Partey. But it all depends on the outgoings, Terry. Are we ready? Yes. I think we are ready. I think we're ready to take on Manchester City. I think we're ready to take on the Premier League. I think we're ready to start the season off well. And I think a lot of people who who didn't believe in us, who didn't believe this team would get better, who didn't believe this team would actually have the strength to go out and push on and get in big signings like Timber, like Declan Rice. I'm not even going to say Kai Havertz because a lot of people probably don't rate him, but we'll see what happens next with the rest of the signings that didn't believe in us are now going to wake up and be like, you know what, I see what they're able to do. And the performances we had last season are just indicative of signs of where we're headed in. And I do believe this team will have, with the signings of Declan Rice, we'll just have those extra couple points to get us over the line. And I do believe Manchester City, be controversial as it is, I haven't seen enough from them yet to say that they're getting that they're at the same level or even getting better. They're losing big names like potentially Gundogan, Kyle Walker, Riyad Mahrez, and Bernardo Silva's always linked away. So with our biggest rival not yet getting any stronger and us continuing to improve our squad, I really do believe we're ready. And Mikel Arteta has just gone to the they're going to the US right now for preseason, and we got three signings already. I'm excited, Terry. I think that we've done well, and I just got to give the hats off to Edu and Mikel Arteta and the signings that they've brought into the door, and just say, you know what, bring it on. And everyone who brings up last season, we bottled it last season. That was last season. This season, new deal, and you're going to see a new Arsenal. I'm telling you, we might start off the same way Liverpool did. Start off quick off the bat with all the new signings, and people won't be surprised that people will be surprised that we start off the same way we started the season last season with all our new players there.
Do you kind of, I get where you're coming from, and it is a new year, and I think you guys should be. I'm still seeing a lot of rivals are going to be salty. I'm going to put pressure on you. I don't want you to be successful to a degree. I don't want City doing a 4-peat. I don't want Liverpool winning the league. So if Man United can't win the league, I would prefer you to do it to those guys. Liverpool would catch our title records. City would do a 4-peat, which we've never done. So there are reasons. But as a general rule, I don't want you to win it. I want Man United to. But why am I still seeing lots of negative gooners? Brandon and many others fuming after like what was an okay preseason game. They're still angry. You know, people are angry that Declan Rice took so long to be announced. People are angry that Cecil G was singing Rice, Rice, Baby. Why are there still gooners who are not in a good... I can't fathom why Arsenal fans are not excited with how well you did last year, the investment that's been made, the speed of the deals, the quality of the players that you've brought in, the fact that you're going to probably still buy a couple more. Why is there not excitement amongst 95% of Arsenal fans? Why is there still a lot of negative Nellies?
Okay. First, let me just say the Cecil part. I honestly, AFTV is hilarious. I love it. They did that whole Rice Rice Baby thing with Cecil. It's amazing. I loved it. But a lot of fans think it's embarrassing because it gets used as a way to beat a player down.
If he starts badly, yes, it will.
Yeah. So the first game against whoever we play, if I'm not mistaken, are we playing Forest? I think. I'm not sure.
I'll have to look. I think
we're playing Forest, Nottingham Forest at home in the first game of the season. But basically, if he has a bad game, you're gonna see Cecil dancing on the timeline a lot. It's gonna happen a lot, and people are not gonna be. So that's more what people are saying, and also some people just find it cringy. People don't like people celebrating and doing stuff like that. Now, when it comes to the negative side of things, you can't please everybody in life. There's going to be fans, no matter what we do, they're going to bring up something. So the new thing that people are upset about is that Thomas Partey could potentially be sold. Some people are upset that Balogun potentially could be sold. There needs to be something to be upset about. So the first thing was Arsenal are in the Champions League. We better see a big signing. Declan Rice comes in. Well, they're happy. They got what they wanted, but they move on to the next topic. Okay, we need more. Well, we bring in a couple more signings. We bring in Timber. We bring in that guy. Well, we still have Rob Holding here. El Neni here. Well, Rob Holding's linked to leaving the club. El Neni's going to probably leave at the end of his contract. Lokonga potentially could leave. Cedric could potentially leave. Well, they're still here. I'm upset. So just the mere fact that you see some of these guys' faces on the screen pisses people off. You can't help that, right? So, and then when it comes to the negative side of things, I don't view it as negative all the time. I just view it as a difference of opinion. Some people view things glass half full. Some people view things glass half empty. Some people like to just see the side of things that they think can go wrong and will go wrong, and they always mention those things. It's not necessarily that they're negative, that they just like doing that, Terry, and I can't help them. I can't help them from. I feel sorry for some people that don't see things on the positive side of things, because when you're going to enjoy yourself?
Yeah, like I kind of listen. I understand the challenge. I find it like I've seen Man United fans scream blue murder that Ten Hag needs to be more ruthless.
You know what happened today? Reece
What?
Nelson wasn't on the U.S. trip because he's injured. People were like, "How dare you put Onana on the plane and not Reece Nelson?" It's not like we said, Reece Nelson, you can't come. He's injured. But people are going to find something.
Yeah, that's what I find. But you know, take it away from Arsenal. United fans for months, manager's got to be ruthless, ruthless, ruthless. Pulls a contract offer away from De Gea. How dare you treat people like that? And this is what I always talk about. Whenever I called Lee Gunner out for this weeks ago, I said, you've asked for your manager to be ruthless. He deems potentially Xhaka and Partey need to exit. Now you're angry at who he's being ruthless with. And I always feel like the can just gets kicked down the street. No matter what they do, negative people will always remain. They'll always look for, right, how can I spin this good outcome into a bad one? What can I look for that's negative about it? Does that make sense? And it's just strange to me. But then again, I'm on the outside looking in, and I look at Arsenal's situation, and barring having just won a major trophy, I don't feel like there's anything to be negative about. And even then, this notion of, well, we haven't won a trophy, so I'm going to remain angry until we win one. I don't think that'll be enough.
You know,
with those same people, when you win one, the goalposts will move again to, yeah, but it's just one, we've got to retain it now, or yeah, but we didn't do it in a style that I wanted, or we got lucky because of this. And I've seen it for many years. People say it's just Twitter. It's not Twitter. People were talking like this when Wayne Rooney didn't score the World Cup in 06 and then in 2010. When he eventually did it 2014, the same people that were angry with him for not scoring at the previous two just started moaning about the fact that, well, why did he bother do it now for? Why couldn't he do it in the previous tournaments when we had a better team? Okay, so it was never about, it was just about hating on Wayne Rooney. You've seen, by the way, Harry Kane, his whole career, one season wonder, second season wonder, can he score against the big teams? Eventually, he'll win a trophy. Eventually, he'll score in a final, and they'll still find a reason to say he's not good. And it used to be funny when it was kind of rivals doing it to each other. I just don't understand the level of negativity that people have towards their own teams when there isn't that much to be negative about. I can get it when you were 8th, but not when you're where you are now. You're just beating City to one of the best players in Europe. You're being back financially, in my opinion, for the first time in the Premier League era, fully with the contracts you're giving. It's time to be excited as an Arsenal fan. I don't get that even if it's only 10%, I don't get their constant belly aching.
But Terry, they can't, because we smashed the stadium down to be on the same level as Bayern Munich. So my whole thing is High Standards FC have a fundamental issue with building a squad to a level to compete. They just want the squad to go from 0 to 100 real quick with nothing in between. And you physically cannot do that. There's going to be a moment where you have to build to get to something. And also, this whole the new thing, Terry, is if Mikel Arteta doesn't deliver the Champions League or a league title, it doesn't matter if we do a domestic double, he's still sacked. What kind of conversation is this? Can we not go into the season being like, you know what, we welcome the opportunity to try to win the league title. We welcome the opportunity to be back in the Champions League for the first time in a long time, but we need to see adequate improvement. But at the same level, why does it always have to be an ultimatum? Why does it always have to be a thing where we go back to Arteta in and out? Like, have we not moved past this? Are we not beyond the point of where we talk about Mikel Arteta's job security every 2 days? Because at this point, I'm beyond that. I'm past the conversation of talking about job security, and I'm on the conversation of winning trophies. But guess what? The same people who have high standards are on the conversation of still talking about resetting and restarting the whole thing than actually trying to win.
You can have high standards and still be in a good mood.
Yeah.
It's not right. If you're a person with high standards, it means you're grumpy in life. I don't have
the best job, so I'm never going to be happy the rest of my life. I'm going to wake up angry every day.
It's like there. I don't. As I said, I saw anger after first preseason game. It made no sense to me personally. We've got some super chats here. First one says Brandon and Lee Gunner are too negative. The problem is Egal is way too positive, to the point of being delusional. Egal is cool but makes stuff up.
I've been on this stream for over an hour and 8 minutes. Name one thing that I said that's delusional. Like, I'm very balanced. I think you guys only just see when I say things that I'm arguing with rivals where I'm very passionate backing Arsenal. Now, of course, I'm going to back my team, but name something that I said that's delusional on this one stream. you can't say nothing. So I feel like I get painted with a bad brush, same way they get painted with a bad brush. Lee Gunnar and Brendan are not always negative. There's times where they say positive things also. It's just people don't see it.
There we go. When we spend 100 million, we're ruining football. These men do it, and it's Rice could be the game changer to push them over the line. Guess time will tell. But the reason that City and other teams like yourselves have been accused of ruining football is because it's believed that a lot of the money that's come into the game has been pumped in by owners as opposed to being kind of organically created. That's their argument. But look, it is what it is. It's only ruining the game if you guys have cooked your books, and I'm sure you don't believe that you have. Egal, what have you been eating lately? Your comebacks are too saucy.
My guy, big up to you, man. Appreciate it.
The story that won't go away. Do you think that Arsenal can get Tchouameni? I wanted to get your opinion on this.
I would absolutely love it, Terry. I would absolutely love it. But you know the honest reality, I view Tchouameni as an untransferable player from Real Madrid. I don't think Tchouameni, if there's a choice between Valverde, Camavinga, and Tchouameni, who leaves that club this season, I think the last name you'd mention is Tchouameni. I think Valverde leaves before him, and I think even Camavinga would leave before him potentially. I think he's their only real DM that I would say out of the group. And with Kroos and Modric both also getting of an age where they're going to be getting older and they're going to potentially leave, I don't think they let go of a potential midfield for the next 10 years. Their midfield sorted for the next 10 years. Why get rid of one of them for no reason? I think even if we offer them 80 million, maybe even if we were crazy enough to offer them 100 million right now, I don't think they take it. I think they turn it down because, and the only thing that could change that is if the sale of Mbappe happens and they need to sell players and nobody else in their squad is sellable besides Tchouameni to Arsenal, then maybe. And even if Tchouameni is available, Chelsea's going to come in. They want to get Caicedo, they're going to turn their attention straight to Tchouameni, former target of theirs. Liverpool is going to come in. It's not just going to be as simple. But hey, and in that case, if Tchouameni did come in, and we did get Tchouameni, we had Declan Rice, we had Kai Havertz, who would question this midfield? Nobody. But the reality is it's going to be extremely difficult to happen. And I don't see Real Madrid selling. And if he did become available, I think everyone's eyes would open up wide. Even Manchester United, wouldn't you guys want him as a potential player?
Yeah. Look, I know a lot of people play this potential transfer down. And I get it's a very loose one right now. And the journalists just all say very difficult, very difficult. It's one of those I think there's an outside chance on. As you say, I think Mbappe is a key factor in this. And then if their finances can spread, do they need to sell to buy? What's going on with Alphonso Davies coming in? That's another expensive transfer. So I believe if Tchouameni does leave Real Madrid, if it's going to be very late in the window, I don't believe it will be in the next couple of weeks. It's a hard one for Arsenal to get done. But it's just one I keep saying to people. It's don't get your hopes up or hold your breath because you'll get blue lips. But it's one I bank. I put to the side, and you never quite know. And I know that people love to, as we said earlier, people don't think that it's possible that Cavadonna signs for Newcastle. Same people said that Tonelli would have said it 6 weeks ago. No chance they get Tonelli. I remember doing the first video that I did when it first broke that you guys were going in for Declan Rice in February. It was laughed at by rivals. I remember last summer when Man United got linked to Casemiro, we were told absolutely zero chance, no Paul, isn't going to happen. Even when Man United got linked to Mount, it was Liverpool the favourites. Why would he pick you over Liverpool? And I know he's nowhere near a star in comparison to Tchouameni, but I still am shocked that fans spend time in live chats, on streams, on the internet, acting like transfers can't ever happen. And I understand that Ornstein and Fabrizio haven't said anything yet. And this is not a dig at those guys because they're impeccable. But we're fans talking about what we're hearing, what's going on. At the same time, when we first got linked to Onana, none of them were talking about it. When you got first linked to Rice and all those stories turned out to be true, it wasn't those journalists talking about it to begin with. It was journalists that nobody knows or overly trusts. Does that make sense? It was Goldberg from Chelsea who broke the news about Kai Havertz.
True.
So, and when he first said it, everyone said he was lying and capping, and like Arsenal fans were like, no chance, no way, there's no way we would do it. So I just kind of look at it as, let's see what happens. I don't think it will happen, But this notion of just, it's nonsense, it shouldn't even be discussed. Fans should be discussing this kind of thing. Oh, should we go for him? Should we put a bid in? Do you think it could happen? How? That's the fun part of transfers. When I grew up as a kid, that's what we would sit there and do at school. As an adult, it's what we would do at work. Me and my boys would be in the car. That's what we speak about. For some reason now online, people get angry at football content creators talking about rumors or suggestions or feelings. That's what football is. If you remove it, how boring is life going to be? It's a crazy one for me. But yeah, look, I think for me, it's a difficult one. But it's one where I think, watch this space, the world could change. And the Mbappe, and the reason I say that is there's so many deals right now that are not happening. I feel like there's such a vacuum at the moment. And when one or two start, there could be an onslaught and an onpouring of money going everywhere. And you never quite know. You never quite know what could happen.
So you think Harry Kane is going to move this window, and Mbappe is going to move this window, and Tchouameni could move this window? That's a lot of business.
So Tchouameni, I'm just saying, it all depends if Madrid have the money or not. If Madrid have got the money to get Mbappe without selling him, he stays. That's my caveat. But I think Mbappe could move this summer, and I still think Man United might sign Harry Kane later on in the window.
Wow. Is there any other big transfers you think that could happen, that like Victor Osimhen or something like that?
I don't get a feeling that he'll move. I just, in terms of there's not enough, there's not really any noise around it. But other big ones that I think are on the cards that could kind of go through. Man City, I would say keep an eye on the Kimmich situation, because that rumor went quiet when they were linked to Declan. City needs stars, right? I said it in a video earlier on today. City could be in big trouble next season.
I agree.
They could be in big trouble. And when I say big trouble, I don't mean out the top four. I mean title race. Because it isn't just the quality they're losing in Gundogan and Silva and Mahrez and Laporte. And there's a fifth one I'm now forgetting, Kyle Walker. Some of these guys are arguably, like, Gundogan's the greatest captain the club's ever had. Kyle Walker is the greatest right back the club's ever had. The experience and the quality combined, you've got to buy some stars for that. Now, they bid nearly 100 million for Rice. That means they've got 100 million sitting there. And that wasn't either him or Guardiola. I'm looking at both. So, listen, I think City are going to pull off a big signing as well that nobody's looking at right now. I think they really will.
I think it's too early to say, because City haven't started their window yet. But at this moment in time, they could potentially be down to one right winger. They could potentially be down to one fullback each. They could potentially be down to only three center halves if you include some Ake as a winger and as a center back. So no, 4 actually. Their squad depth has taken a big hit. That's my point that I'm saying. And a lot of the players they're leaving, Kovacic is a downgrade. Benjamin Pavard is a downgrade to Kyle Walker. Like, they're actually taking downgrades. And Bernardo Silva and Riyad Mahrez potentially could leave also. If that happens, they have no right winger going into the season. Like,
yeah, and look, Pep's amazing. He's absolutely impeccable. I'm sure he's got a plan. I'm just intrigued. I can't remember a time where they had this much quality leave at the same time. I don't remember. Listen, Aguero went, but he was already being phased out. Company went, and that was obviously, and you saw what happened the year after Company left. The year after Company left, they didn't win the league, and that was one player. Imagine timesing that by 5. To act like again, like I've said, might be in big trouble if they don't get those replacements in. And as you said, Pavard, Kovacic, these guys are not good enough.
Now if that happens, Terry, the super chat right there from LJ Brown.
What, Neymar?
Happens, where would he play on the left, and everyone else would have to move on the right?
Well, but Neymar is not going Man City. Pep Guardiola is not an idiot. Why would you sign someone who only starts on average for the last 7 years, 16 games a season?
My point is, they need an attacker. Who are they going to get in world football that's an attacker to come into this team? Because you lose all that players in the midfield, in the defense. Yes, you're going to bring in midfielders and defenders, but where you're going to spend big is in the attack. And let's be honest, they don't have that many different choices on that right side if they lose Riyad Mahrez and Bernardo Silva potentially.
I hear you. This here says Sterling, Zinchenko, Jesus, Torres all left. Listen, with all due respect to those 4 players, they are not Kyle Walker, Gundogan, Riyad Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, and who's the other player? Laporte. None of those players not Zinchenko. They're not that level.
Sterling was massive for them, though.
Sterling was, but they replaced him goal wise with the best young goal scorer the Premier League's ever had. That's the point I'm making. Sterling was replaced by positionally by Jack Grealish, goal wise by Haaland, right? So you're in this situation where you did that. So again, if they lose those players, for instance, if Gundogan's gone now and they bring in Kimmich into the midfield, like for like, they went for Rice as an example. If Kyle Walker leaves and they bring in Hakimi, you say, okay, you've replaced the quality. The problem is if Gundogan leaves and you sign James Ward-Prowse or another Fabian Delph, the quality drops. I'm being flippant when I say this. I think that if you lose Mahrez and Bernardo Silva, but you sign Almiron, the quality ain't the same. And this isn't a dig at City. I think I'm speaking facts here. You're losing 5 to 6 of your most top quality players who are influential in the treble that you've just won. To act like if you don't replace them with high enough quality, to act like I'm weird for saying it might be detrimental. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it.
Terry, we're not allowed to say this out loud, but City are getting weaker. And that is the honest reality of this transfer window at this moment in time. Until they start doing some major business, they have gotten weaker this season, this transfer window so far. And it's maybe because they haven't brought in any big signings. But dare I say it, we're talking about a team that easily walks the league every season. Going into this season, with the lack of squad depth that they might have going into it, maybe it's not lack of squad depth. Maybe it's the lack of big names. Because with all these players leaving, Terry, their big name players are headed out the door. Not Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland.
But KDB is also on the decline physically.
That is another factor, yeah.
He was. And so that's a big factor.
Haaland always gets injured. He didn't get injured last season.
Well, he got took off a lot. And listen, they've got Haaland and they've got Alvarez. In terms of striking options, they're stacked for days as an example. But, they need something. Now, look, if Cavadonna goes there, again, if they sign him, not Newcastle, you'll see my mood change. But I can only judge what we're seeing so far, and there's a lot of people leaving.
Even if they sign him, they have 3 left wingers: Jack Grealish, him, and Phil Foden.
I feel Foden might end up. I don't know. Foden might move a bit to the right next year. We'll see. This is not a super chat, but it says Pep made those players better, Terry, so he will improve the replacements. Just the same. Stop the cap. But listen, Maradona, that's disrespectful to those players. So Pep, of course, helps the coach and make people better than they are. But if that was the case, then he wouldn't have had to replace Bravo straight away. He wouldn't have had to keep rejigging and buying new fullbacks. If that was the case, he wouldn't have needed Haaland. If that was the case, Cole Palmer would be a starter in the team by now. They wouldn't, they would have just put Lavia into the team instead of spending big money on Rodri. You have to buy right. The players have to be of a certain level, Maradona. This isn't just a case of he can go now, take James Ward. He isn't going to take Kovacic. Kovacic is not going to be as good as Rodri just because he's playing for Man City. Otherwise, they'd just go out and spend 5 million. They wouldn't need to spend hundreds of millions of pounds. They just go out and buy a good player and make him brilliant. Like, these are genuinely top class players, my friend.
Does Calvin Phillips become good all of a sudden? What do you think about him?
Maybe. Listen, Calvin Phillips might turn the corner, and maybe we're all overlooking that slightly. But yeah, again, they're talking about selling him to get Rice. Why would he sell Calvin Phillips to get Rice? They were talking about having to do that earlier on. If the manager can just make them all better, that makes sense. Why are City letting their best players go? I don't think it's about them letting them go. I think players maybe have just got to a point where they've been there long enough, they've achieved everything they can achieve, and they want to test themselves. And the problem is, if players lose motivation, the worst thing you could do is keep them, because you can only prolong that motivation for a certain amount of time. So you need to be very, very mindful with that. Look, rivals doubting our board and Pep yawn. Well, not doubting you. Saying you've got to make the improvements, or there could be problems.
Because where's the same energy? We're losing Partey and Xhaka. Everyone's saying, "Oh, you're going to fall off," but they're losing, like we mentioned, 6 players. Nobody's mentioning City. It's crazy to me.
It is crazy one. Okay, Gal, are Arsenal favourites then? Say it.
I still believe City are always favourites, but it's just City's not the same City. And I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal got into a situation similar to Liverpool, where you guys drop off and we capitalize. It's on us to do so. But at this moment in time, no one's going to say treble-winning City have fallen off to the point where they're not favorites. You're always going to be favorites until somebody sees otherwise.
This year says Mbappe to City. That's not happening while Haaland's there.
Never happening.
I don't think they can afford it because Haaland's already on about 900 grand a week, and Mbappe would have the same. You would literally, you have to pay up nearly 100 million pound a year in salary. I think even with City's money, I don't think that's affordable.
I don't think it's even a logical deal for them. The 200 million that they would spend on Mbappe wouldn't make sense in how they would rebuild their squad. It's not like they have an endless amount of money anyways.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I just don't ever see Haaland and Mbappe in the same team, to be fair. So Egal sounds British as F whenever he says City. Say City?
Man City?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I suppose it's Cameron noticed it more. He's from, you both are from Toronto, right? So maybe he understands your accent a little more than I do. So yeah.
I've been here for too long, bro.
It's true. You're basically, how long have you lived in England now?
Since 2018.
Oh, 5 years. So for a while then. You probably end up spending more of your life in Britain than Canada by the time you're older.
I've spent my whole life in Canada, so it would need to be here for at least 28 years before that happens.
But you might. Mrs. is from Britain, right? Mrs. is born here?
No, yeah. She was born here, went to Dubai, came back.
Yeah. Are all her family here?
Yeah.
Then you're staying here. Always got to be near the woman's family, mate. That's how it typically works in life. But you'll see. Maybe they'll move. But we'll see what happens.
There you go.
Listen, Egal, I want to thank you very much, bro, for coming on the show today and having a chat with us. Viewers, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Back tomorrow with some content in the morning and afternoon. Top 6 show in the evening as well. Please make sure you subscribe and touch the bell notification button before you go anywhere. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again